Claire. I'll begin by apologising as I have the flu. So when we all head back to our farms and you feel that post-conference itch in your throat, you've found patient zero. I'm right here. In 2020, I made the decision to return full-time to our family property Gundamain in central West New South Wales. This was right as one of the worst droughts in the district's history was breaking. Just 2 years later, I stood on that same ground, watching a 1 in 5,000 year flood reshape our paddocks and take out our town. Those moments made one thing clear: agriculture isn't for the faint-hearted. Resilience wasn't just about wearing the storm, but preparing, enduring, and recovering. It's about having the systems, infrastructure, and relationships to keep operating while the storm is raging. These climatic extremes showed the diversification of our business was an asset. When the weather affected the extensive portions, the intensive parts of the business operated business as usual. This had me thinking, how far down the supply chain does this go? My research set out to answer one question: how do feedlots contribute to the resilience of Australia's beef supply chain, particularly during drought? Today gives me an opportunity to share some key takeaways, global lessons, and practical actions to strengthen our industry for the long haul. Today, Australia is feeding 1.58 million cattle with the capacity to feed over 1.7. That's more than double the number of cattle we were feeding in 2010. Not only that, but utilisation rates are now, in the last quarter, were recorded at 93%. This scale now underpins more than half of Australia's beef production and is deeply embedded in both domestic and export supply programs. Why does that matter? Because when pasture fails, whether from drought, flood, or fire, feedlots can absorb large numbers of cattle that would otherwise flood sale yards. That intake buffers supply, smooths price swings, and keeps processors operating. In past droughts, this capacity has meant the difference between a market correction and a market collapse. Without feedlots taking in unfinished or early weaned cattle, we could expect far sharper downward turns for young cattle, greater volatility for finished cattle, and disrupted processor throughput. For exporters, that would mean missed shipments and damaged market confidence. As for that, my first key takeaway I really want us to think about this is that feedlots are not just finishing systems, they are resilience infrastructure. International examples I found reinforce this point. In Canada's prairie provinces, I saw yards built for survival in -50 degrees Celsius and +40 degrees in summer. Their pen mounting, windbreaks, roller compacted concrete and storm rations are designed to keep cattle and businesses operating through these extremes. Feedlots in these regions regularly have to step in when seasonal pasture shortages hit, cow-calf producers preventing bottlenecks and keeping packers supplied. In Brazil, processor-owned yards ensured premium export programs continued even in years of severe pasture failure. In short, our feedlot sector acts as a shock absorber. It doesn't prevent drought, but it limits its economic and logistical damage, not just individual businesses, but the integrity of the entire beef supply chain. My second takeaway is flexibility is the foundation of this resilience. During drought, feedlot operators face the same feed scarcity and cost pressures as grazing enterprises, but their systems are built to adapt. Ration design is one of the strongest levers. In southern New South Wales, that might mean substituting almond hulls or citrus pulp. In northern New South Wales and lower Queensland, sorghum might replace higher-priced grains. The most resilient operations I've visited, whether in Canada, the US, or home, had a common trait: procurement strategies that could pivot quickly across not just regions, but continents. In Alberta, a large operator told me, flexibility is our insurance policy. They regularly shift between barley, wheat, sorghum, or corn, depending on global price movements and, of course, tariffs. Another feedlot I visited in Brazil had 48 ration ingredients that they alternated between. Infrastructure also plays a part. Covered pens, shade structures, and expanded silage bunkers improve animal performance and allow yards to handle intake surges without compromising welfare or compliance. These investments don't always show an immediate return on investment, but during climate shocks, they pay back through sustained throughput and avoided losses. Australia's challenge is to embed this kind of adaptability across more of our feeding systems so drought responses aren't reactive, but built into everyday operations. My third takeaway, resilience also depends on trust, the ethical frameworks, claims, and certifications that underpin our markets. In Australia, the NFAS, or the National Feedlot Accreditation Scheme, is the backbone of this trust. It ensures every accredited yard has documented quality systems, animal welfare compliance, environmental management plans, and contingency registers for drought, flood, or fire. That's why processors and exporters rely on feedlots during climatic shocks. But trust doesn't stop with compliance. Increasingly, consumers and retailers want verifiable claims such as grain-fed, HGP-free, grass-fed, carbon neutral, etc. These are moral as much as technical questions about how food is produced and what value that marketing represents. During my travels, I saw how powerful these claims could be. In Colorado, a feedlot was finishing cattle on silage and forage under a pasture-fed, no grain ever program for the European market. Average daily gain was lower, costs were higher, and the system was more complex. But certification gave them access to a niche, values-driven market. Because of this, the claim was only possible because of strict traceability and an independent audit system. Australia's strength is that NFAS sits alongside the AusMeat animal raising claims framework. That means our industry can credibly give back both mainstream and niche claims, whether grain-fed, pasture-fed, or hybrid. Importantly, it means we can demonstrate ethical production, not just efficient production. In a world where scrutiny of our food systems is rising, this is Australia's competitive advantage. Resilience is not only about infrastructure and rations, it's about the moral contract we uphold with our consumers, regulators, and markets. And our last takeaway, integration strengthens the whole supply chain. When feedlots, producers, and processors work in silos, drought hits harder. Integrated systems, whether through ownership, contracts, or coordinated logistics, create stability and speeds up recovery. In Brazil, processor-backed feedlots use benchmarking and performance data to lift productivity across their supply base. In Australia, custom feeding, backgrounding, and staging facilities help smooth cattle flow and prevent bottlenecks during seasonal turn-off. Integration also supports market continuity. Premium export programs can't wait for the weather to improve. They need consistent volumes year-round. By securing cattle through the chain, integration reduces risk for everyone from breeder to brand. And typical of a Nuffield, I have 4 actions here to strengthen resilience. To producers and feedlot operators, invest in drought-ready strategies like grain-on-hand programs, water security, and inter-supply chain partnerships. To industry organisations, continue to evolve NFAS to include emerging areas such as emissions, natural capital, and digital traceability to ensure Australia's market access. To policymakers, support shovel-ready upgrades, shade, water reuse, regional feed hubs through targeted incentives. To retailers and consumers, support verified programs across both pasture and grain-based systems, avoiding false dichotomies. This Nuffield journey has shaped my thinking on resilience. It doesn't just come from one person or part of the chain. It's built through connection, trust in systems, and the willingness to adapt before the crisis hits. Standing in yards in Brazil, Canada, the US, and home, I saw that the most resilient businesses weren't just feeding cattle, they were feeding confidence. I'd like to thank my sponsor, the Future Drought Fund, Nuffield Australia, the Australian Lot Feeders Association, the entire team at Gundamain, my family included, and every producer, processor and researcher who shared their knowledge and time with me. Our climate is only going to get more variable, but if we invest in systems that are flexible, integrated and trusted, Australia's beef will remain competitive and resilient for the long haul. Thank you for your time.